The word tariff to me is the most beautiful word in the entire dictionary.
We're going to tariff the hell out of them.
I am a tariff.
Tariffs are a weapon of negotiation. We don't want tariffs between Canada and the United States. That's a horrific idea. That's a bad idea for both economies.
With tariffs that raise the cost of just about everything.
Mutually damaging to have 25% tariffs across the board on U.S. goods coming into Canada. That would harm Canadian citizens at a time.
Danielle Smith recently made headlines as she took a bold step in addressing the trade tensions between Canada and the United States by meeting with U.S. President-elect Donald Trump at his Lago resort in Florida.
Over the weekend, of course, I had the opportunity to meet with the incoming United States President Donald Trump at Lago on Saturday evening and then at his golf club on Sunday morning. We had a friendly conversation and I thought quite constructive, during which I emphasized the mutual importance of the U.S.-Canada relationship and specifically how hundreds of thousands of jobs are supported in the United States by energy exports from Alberta. I was able to have similar discussions with members of his incoming administration, and I was encouraged to hear that they also understand how important Canada is and how our strong energy and security relationship is important. I think we need to be prepared that tariffs are coming. That seems to me I think we've all seen the biggest irritant to the United States are trade deficits, which they believe they have.
Trump's proposed tariffs have cast a long shadow over Canada's economic future, threatening to disrupt a trading relationship that has been important for both nations. For Alberta, the stakes are particularly high. With crude oil representing a substantial portion of Canada's exports, Smith's province stands to bear a disproportionate share of the economic fallout if these tariffs are implemented. The potential consequences include a weakened provincial economy, job losses, and even a national unity crisis as provinces face differing levels of exposure to Trump's policies. As we move forward, I'd like to ask you a quick favor to subscribe and like this video. It takes just a second and helps us so much. A key element of Smith's strategy was her push for carve-outs, or exemptions, specifically for Alberta's crude oil. As one of Canada's largest exports, crude oil represents a critical economic lifeline for Alberta, accounting for about 1/5 of all Canadian goods shipped abroad. Smith made the case that targeting Alberta's oil with tariffs would not only harm the province but also disrupt the broader North American energy market.
I don't actually believe they have a trade deficit. When you take out energy, we actually buy more goods and services from the U.S. than they buy from us. I'm happy to make this National Bank report available to anyone who wants it, that shows we actually have $58 billion in a trade deficit with the Americans when you take energy out. And that's why I wanted to have the assurance that the Americans are interested in getting more of our oil and gas, because I think oil and gas is going to be key to being able to get a breakthrough once tariffs do come in getting them off. I think if we maintain a strong partnership on energy, we make the case about how much the Americans benefit from that energy relationship, we demonstrate that we are a good trade partner, that we buy more goods and services from America than any other nation, and that we do buy more goods and services when you take energy out. I think we can make that case, and I think that the bedrock of that tariff-free relationship is energy.
Donald Trump's position on imposing tariffs on Canadian exports has been resolute, leaving little room for optimism or negotiation. Throughout his public commentary and private discussions, Trump has consistently signaled his commitment to a 25% levy on Canadian goods, framing it as a necessary step to address trade imbalances and protect American interests.
We're thinking in terms of 25% on Mexico and Canada because they're allowing vast numbers of people. Canada's a very bad abuser also. Vast numbers of people to come in and fentanyl to come in.
When do you think you would enact those?
I think February 1st.
Are you planning on giving notice of that?
I think we'll do it February 1st.
Danielle Smith, after she met with Trump at Lago, candidly admitted that there were no signs of a shift in his approach. Despite her efforts to present Alberta's case and highlight the mutual benefits of a cooperative trade relationship, Smith acknowledged the harsh reality. Trump's determination to move forward with the tariffs appeared immovable. The economic implications of these tariffs for Alberta are both immediate and severe. Projections suggest that Trump's tariff plan could result in over 50,000 job losses across the province, driving unemployment up to 7.8%. This sharp rise in unemployment would strain local communities and challenge the provincial government's ability to provide support for displaced workers. The ripple effects would extend beyond individual households, with businesses and industries across Alberta feeling the strain of reduced exports and increased costs. In addition to job losses, the tariffs threaten to push Alberta's economy into a recession. The provincial government, which has worked hard to stabilize its finances, may once again find itself grappling with deficits. Smith has openly discussed the prospect of returning to deficit spending as a means of weathering the economic storm. But such a move comes with its own set of risks and challenges.
I think that when you talk about how we export, and I think that the Conservative leader, Pierre Poilievre, made this point recently, we actually sell discounted oil to the U.S. They upgrade it. So $100 billion worth of Canadian exported oil turns into $300 billion worth of value-added product and exports that the U.S. can then use with their trade partners around the world. So I just feel like the more we make those arguments, slowly but surely, we'll be able to make the case that we should continue to enjoy a tariff-free relationship. But I don't want to raise any expectations. The administration, the president gets sworn in, becomes president on January 20th. As I have understand, from reading the papers, there's 100 executive orders coming in there, and I haven't seen anything that suggests that he's changing course. So our job is going to be to work overtime to make sure that we can make the case for carve-outs if that potential does happen.
Danielle Smith's decision to approach Donald Trump directly and negotiate on behalf of Alberta has sparked considerable debate across Canada, with many questioning the wisdom of her solo strategy. Political analysts like Lisa Young from the University of Calgary argue that Smith's solo approach could have long-term consequences for Canada's ability to negotiate effectively with Trump. Young points out that a divided front could weaken Canada's position in the eyes of the U.S., making it easier for Trump to exploit any divisions to his advantage. She suggests that while Alberta's oil is of paramount importance to the U.S., any individual province's efforts to negotiate exemptions could inadvertently disrupt the overall Canadian strategy, especially if other provinces are left out of the conversation. Similarly, Laurie Williams, a political scientist at Mount Royal University, stresses the importance of unity in negotiations with the United States. Williams argues that Canada must speak with one voice if it hopes to navigate the complexities of the tariff threat successfully. A fragmented approach, she warns, could expose Canada to greater risks, as the U.S. would be more likely to take advantage of any internal disagreements. Williams emphasizes that the success of these negotiations depends not just on the actions of individual provinces, but on how well they can collaborate with the federal government. In contrast to Smith's approach, other premiers, such as BC's David Eby, have taken a different route. Eby has sought to build strategic alliances with Democratic governors, focusing on shared interests and the political leverage these relationships could provide. Eby's focus is on working with key U.S. figures like California's Gavin Newsom to navigate the political landscape and minimize the impact of Trump's proposed tariffs. Eby has also suggested export bans as a potential countermeasure to the tariffs, a stance that puts the emphasis on protecting Canada's resources while maintaining a united front in the face of U.S. pressure. Following Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's resignation, Canada found itself in a state of political flux, with the governing Liberals distracted by the need to select a new leader. This leadership vacuum has left the federal government in a disorganized position, which, in Smith's view, has made it harder for Canada to mount a coherent and united response to Trump's tariff threat. Smith, in her remarks, voiced significant concerns about the potential risks of the federal government's inability to provide strong, unified leadership. One of Smith's central worries was the potential for retaliatory measures from Ottawa, particularly in response to Trump's tariffs. While Smith has consistently opposed the idea of export bans as retaliation, she is acutely aware of the dangers that such measures pose to national cohesion.
There's going to have to be some kind, if a 25% tariff comes in across the board on all of our goods, there will have to be a Canadian response. My efforts are to try to avoid that altogether. I feel like it would be mutually damaging to have 25% tariffs across the board on U.S. goods coming into Canada. That would harm Canadian citizens at a time when we have an affordability crisis, in the same way that a 25% tariff across the board on our goods to the U.S. will harm U.S. citizens, some more than others. There are some states whose refineries, we've got 50 refineries that rely on Canadian oil.
Should the federal government move to restrict Alberta's energy exports in retaliation against the U.S., the situation could quickly escalate into a national unity crisis. Smith has also found an ally in Canadian businessman Kevin O'Leary, who has been vocal about Alberta's economic potential. O'Leary, known for his business acumen, has been working closely with Smith to promote initiatives that could help bolster Alberta's economy in the face of potential trade disruptions. One notable project is the proposal to build a massive artificial intelligence data center in northern Alberta. This ambitious plan aims to tap into the growing demand for data processing and technological innovation, presenting Alberta as a forward-thinking province ready to diversify its economy and contribute to global technological advancements. Despite her aggressive lobbying efforts, Smith remains adamant in her rejection of any retaliatory export bans on Alberta's energy products, a measure that has been floated as a potential response to U.S. tariffs. While the idea of restricting exports to the U.S. may seem like a straightforward way to apply pressure on the Trump administration, Smith has strongly opposed this strategy. Her reasoning is clear. Such a move would cause significant harm to Canadians across the country. As much as the thought of retaliating against the U.S. might seem tempting to some, Smith is keenly aware that energy exports are a critical source of revenue and employment not just for Alberta, but for the entire nation. By targeting Alberta's energy sector in retaliation, Canada could risk escalating tensions with its most important trading partner, while also harming Canadian workers who depend on these industries for their livelihoods. Trump has often publicly belittled Canada's leadership, even referring to Trudeau as the Governor of Canada, a dismissive comment that undermines the country's sovereignty. His suggestion that Canada could become the 51st state by economic force adds another layer of tension to a relationship already fraught with political complexities. These comments not only ruffled feathers in Ottawa, but also signaled a shift in the tone of U.S.-Canada relations, marking a break from the more collaborative approach seen in the past. Perhaps the most striking justification Trump gives for his aggressive stance on Canada is the issue of NATO spending. He has long criticized NATO members, including Canada, for not meeting the alliance's target of spending at least 2% of their GDP on defense. For Trump, this is a matter of fairness and strength, as he believes that the U.S. has been shouldering an unfair burden in global defense efforts. His call for Canada to step up its contributions to NATO has been a frequent talking point, and he has suggested that tariffs on Canadian goods could serve as leverage to push Canada to increase its defense spending. In light of these justifications, Canada is left in a difficult position. The concerns raised by Trump over illegal migration, trade deficits, and NATO spending are not without merit, but they also obscure the complex and mutually beneficial aspects of U.S.-Canada relations. While Trump's rhetoric often fails to capture the nuances of this relationship, the underlying challenges are real, and the tariff threat is a direct reflection of these larger issues. Smith's stance as a symbol of Alberta's determination is clear, but it also highlights the delicate balance that must be struck between provincial priorities and national unity. As we reflect on the implications of this meeting, the question remains: can Canada present a united front against Trump's tariff threats, or will the differing provincial interests divide the country at a crucial time? What do you think? Let us know in the comments.